What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another discussion video. Today we're taking a look at the truth behind and a nice discussion on The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD. So much has been said about this game, and I want to get my honest thoughts on all the different topics, from the game itself, the updates to the game, some of the controversies surrounding it, and its launch coming up. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button and also subscribe if you are someone new for daily gaming videos and live streams, and also make sure you hit that notification bell as well. So let's go ahead and get into this. Now, recently I put up a post on Twitter talking about how The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD is the #1 game on Amazon being sold at this point. The eShop sales for pre-orders are also doing very well. All signs point to this game, Skyward Sword, being one of the better selling games of the year for Nintendo, and looking like it's going to blow away the original Skyward Sword that came out on the Wii back in 2011, which sold right around 3.5 to 4 million copies, rough estimate. So everything is looking like this is going to be a lot bigger than the original release, and that's got some people a little bit shocked or worried or talking about it, because then they say Nintendo gets a pass or people aren't understanding because of the controversies surrounding this game. And I wanted to have an honest, candid discussion on all of those things. But before we get into that, let's talk about the game itself. What is this about this game? Why is it so controversial? What's going on? A lot of you guys were babies or very little when this game came out, and maybe you haven't read up on everything. So The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD is a game that tried to take full advantage of the Nintendo Wii system with motion control. It wanted to make you be as if you're Link. You hold the sword, you can slash in any direction, and it mimics that. That was the big thing back on the Wii, and Nintendo had varying levels of success. Third parties had a lot more varying levels of success. A lot of games ended up just being waggle fest, but the biggest thing with this game, considering when The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess came out, where it was just purely waggle, where it didn't matter where you slashed your sword, you would just waggle, waggle, waggle away with the Wii remote. This one was different with the Wii Motion Plus accessory that plugged into the bottom of the standard Wii remotes, or with the Wii Motion Plus controller, which had it built in and was way better looking. You could actually get that almost one-to-one movement of the sword with Link, and that created some issues for them. That took a little bit more time for them to get the game out, because they announced the game near the beginning of the Wii's life, and it didn't come out all the way till the end 2011, almost a year before the Wii U launched. So obviously there was some issues there. So the game is very controversial. There are some certain things in there. There's a lot of hand holding with feet, and there's just issues with the pacing of the game and some of the other stuff. Many Zelda games before that have also had some of this stuff, and Nintendo has re-released the game and fixed some of those issues. So for example, some of the Triforce questing that was going down with The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD was fixed up, so they might do the same thing here. But they also have fixed up a number of smaller things and things that were just annoying with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword with this new version of the game. Now let's get into some of the controversies surrounding it. So we heard about the amiibo thing, and I'm going to break down why there was a problem with this and how Nintendo could have handled it a little bit better, and of course my own thoughts. So the amiibo thing was a big problem because most people haven't played the game. You compared it to Breath of the Wild, you show big environments, you show all these things, and people are thinking that, yeah, you're going to have to go back and forth. It'd be good to have some quality of life adjustments to be able to go back and forth whenever you need to get something, or whatever the case is, like you can do with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So the first thing you show, without showing any type of outside quality of life, with the exception of button controls in HD, is, oh, here's this amiibo that lets you transport anywhere that you want. They didn't even talk about the bird statues, how they're all over the place. They didn't talk about many of those things. So many people who forgot about Skyward Sword and how it played, or didn't beat the game, or people who are just new, instantly thought, wait a minute, we don't have any quality of life improvements, because that's what people were saying. It's just a $60 game, full price port with no quality of life improvements, and now you're locking one behind an amiibo. So that was the issue. Nintendo should have reversed their marketing just a bit and made sure that they talked about the other quality of life things that they recently discussed first, and then you can sell the amiibo after that. Unfortunately, marketing mishaps in terms of the response were definitely not accounted for in this situation, because if you've played The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which for some reason Nintendo's probably thinking people will just know, then you would know that this whole amiibo thing with transporting and all that, it's not really needed. There's plenty of statues thrown about there. The game is already insanely easy, be it that, so there's not really too much of an issue for those who have played the game, beat the game. It doesn't really save you much time, and it's not really that big of a deal in the first place when it comes down to the game, and people are kind of seeing that now as more people look into what The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD is. It doesn't really help. I kind of see it as more of a hack or a cheat in my opinion when it comes down to it, but I understand the frustration. I understand why people were upset. So hopefully in the future, Nintendo can kind of market things a little bit better so people kind of understand what's going on there. But at the end of the day, you're seeing these type of sales with Amazon. We're talking about it right now with some of the controversy and everything. And if anything, it entices more people to look at the game. It entices more people to talk about the game. It entices more people to tag it. All of the stuff that I've seen has been very interesting, because for every person that's angry or mad or whatever the case is, there's like 50 people that say, I never played it back then. Wow, this looks really good. Whoa, it's moving at a nice frame rate. Wow, this looks really cool. Well, I was like 6 when that game came out and I couldn't afford it. I couldn't play it. Or it's a new game to me. There's so many people. So all of the chatter and the controversy, which I alluded to a little bit in a previous video that I did, all of it kind of just feeds into the momentum that this game is going to get and how it's going to do extremely big in sales. Now, I've talked about this before with the truth about subjectiveness when it comes to video games and pricing. And guys, it does not matter to me. Pricing will always be subjective. There is no standard that I feel that I need to adhere to based off of what a video game company does or any other company does. So I find it very interesting when people say, oh, well, this is this price, so therefore this is overpriced or this is that. It's all subjective. There are some games you can price them at $40 or $30 for that remake or remaster. I don't put as much value into that brand. I don't put as much value into that game. I don't think that game is as good. I don't think that game is as good as something else that I value more. It's the same exact reason why Sony can bring out Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut, for $70 brand new on PlayStation 5. Despite releasing it last year for $60, they can put it out for $70. It's a good game, and there's people that are going to think that it's worth it for them, as it's selling as one of the best sellers on the PlayStation 5. And I've seen many PlayStation fans say, well, I'm gonna buy the director's cut, or I'm gonna pay that extra $30, so $90 total for it. Value is subjective, whether it's an old game, really old, whether it's a somewhat old game released last year, whether it's anything. It's always going to be a subjective thing, and that is the truth. That's why you see so many people buying the game. That's why you see so many people going over to Amazon and buying it and pre-ordering it. The faster that people understand this and stop making their own comparisons in their head, well, Halo was this, or well, Crash Bandicoot was this, the faster you'll understand why these games like Ghost of Tsushima are going to blow out, you know, Crash Bandicoot or any other games, or games like, for example, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword are going to do extremely well. Not everybody adheres to whatever perception of value that you feel with some Crash Bandicoot games or with some Halo games. They have different values of worth to different people, and no matter what anybody says, this is the absolute truth. I've been looking at video game sales. I've been looking at this stuff for over a decade now at this point, and this, when it comes to the consumer, is always the truth. Now, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that everybody should do this when it comes to older games. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying, though, is that consumers have the right to vote with their wallet, and they have the right to pay what they feel a game is worth, regardless of the situation, whether it's Ghost, whether it's Skyward Sword, whether it's Mario Golf, whether it's anything. You can pay what you feel like. Heck, even with Crash Bandicoot on the Nintendo Switch, it was $40 at launch. I didn't think personally for me, based on what I like, I didn't think it was worth that. I waited till it was like $20. So I waited for a discount. I didn't think it was even worth that for me. Now, other people would disagree, but I don't find Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3 to be, oh my gosh, I need to go out there and spend $40 on those games, even though they remade them. So I don't have some type of adherent value that I put towards games and that I have to adhere to this for any other game that comes out or any other thing. No, I don't even adhere to personal $60 games. Like if a PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo Switch game comes out and it's $60, I might not think it's worth that, even though it's a brand new game or whatever the case is. I put my own values on games, I put my own worth on games, and I'll pay what I feel like, and if it's not, then I won't. And this is the general statement in terms of thought process that many people go by, millions go by. The internet tries to not go by that because they feel that there should be some type of standard for them in terms of for gamers, but for what most people look at when it comes to gaming, I can guarantee you that they have the same thought process as me. I will buy what I want if I feel like it, based on the value that I feel like getting it for, and nobody's going to tell me one way or another. And I feel, to me, that is the truth about The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword or any of the other full price ports people have complained about or whatever the case is. Now, you are able to, and I'm not hating on the people who feel a certain way. Everybody is entitled to their opinion on what they think, and that's fine. Opposing opinions are cool and everything. I'm just trying to give you guys the truth to why we see what we're seeing with The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, killing it in the sales charts here, and why it's going to do extremely well despite these controversies here and there, despite what some people have said or whatever the case is. I'm just going over and looking at the numbers, and personally for me, I did not like the original release of the game, you know, so I want to play the game in HD. I want to play the game with button controls. I want to play the game without all the annoying little things that pop up, with the streamlined stuff that they have, with the fast text, all these different things that they've done to enhance the game. I want to play that. So therefore, I'm willing to buy it because I know there's a quality game there and I want to spend that money on it, you know, and that's just my own personal thought process. It has nothing to do with anything else. I just feel like playing the game. Other people might wait for a sale. That's fine. You can wait for a sale on that, but everybody's different. Everybody has their own opinions in terms of values, subjective value for games. And that's how it's always going to be for the majority of people who buy games throughout the rest of time, and not even just games. Movies, TV shows, cars, whatever else you want to apply it to when it comes to products that we get in this life. So those are my thoughts on this, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the links in the description. We've got Twitter. Go and give us a follow on there. Stay up to date on all the latest gaming news and information. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.